Iran's silent revolution against Islam. The silent revolution brewing in Iran against Islamic orthodoxy is palpable, with a groundbreaking study by the Islamic Republic's Ministry of Culture and Islamic Guidance unveiling a dramatic shift towards secularism. So, this is a government report. This is government surveys, pollings report.
Leaked report. This was private.
Yeah. According to the confidential report, a staggering 73% of Iranians now support the separation of religion from state, a significant leap from less than 31% in 2015. This surge in secular sentiment is a direct response to the Mahsa Amini protests, marking a profound challenge to the regime since its 1979 inception. The study, drawing on response from over 15,800 Iranians across all provinces above the age of 18, highlights a societal pivot away from religious adherence, with 85% observing a decline in religiosity over the past 5 years. Moreover, a notable 81% anticipate this trend to continue, contrasting sharply with the mere 7% who felt more religious and the 8% who saw no change. Attitudes towards the mandatory hijab have also evolved, with 38% expressing tolerance towards noncompliance, a significant shift from only 10.6% in 2015. Furthermore, the study reveals that only 11% regularly engage in congregational prayers, while 45% have never attended Friday prayers, and 19% have never read the Quran. This data underscores a critical and growing divergence from the government's Islamist ideology, suggesting a future Iran potentially anchored more in secular governments than in religious mandate. So, Armin, this is obviously super juicy. We got to dig into this. Okay. I'm just going to let you take it away. Tell us everything you know.
First of all, I don't believe these numbers, okay? Because these numbers are collected by the government. The polls that were taken by Gaman Institution, the methodology, if you study that one, it's done by academics. It's a very known process, academic, scientific way of collecting data and analyzing it. So I trust that even more. And some of these numbers here seem unbelievable, when it comes to, like, we know, I mean, anyways, maybe that's just my bias, but even if putting my bias aside, the fact that this poll was taken by the government in Iran, that will already affect the people, because people are like, okay, this is the government asking me, this is taken within Iran. So people will be scared of answering wrongly. Like if you say like, oh yeah, I don't like Islam, like on a poll that is being taken inside Iran. The other poll, the Gaman poll, which we trust more, was more trustworthy because it was anonymous. It was conducted by by outside of Iran and stuff like that. So I will show you that data. But even with this data that the government of Iran, again, imagine the bias of the source. And this information was not supposed to get leaked. This was supposed to be confidential information that for the own government to understand what is happening with its own people, right? As biased as this is, as afraid as people might be to answer the wrong question and be under a list somewhere because of it, we still managed to get 73% of Iranians demand a secular government. 73% on a government-led poll. Right? That is insane. We have, in one of the few theocracies left in the world, we have a people that by this number, I'm pretty sure it's larger. We will compare this number with the Gaman poll right now to see how many do they want. How many? But I have to bring up another poll then. Okay, I'll look that up as well, right? But imagine that. Imagine 73%, like in one of the most religious governments in the world, what people want. This is a high number. This is not like 50%, 52%, 73%. I will go and find the here. Okay, let's go to the Gammon poll. I trust this a lot more because this was done by academics outside of Iran in a university in Netherlands. But I want to see. There's two polls. I want to. This is a poll. This is a study that showed their attitudes toward religion. I also want to bring up another study that shows the type of government they want. Iranians' attitude to international relationships and attitude to political systems. There we go. I found this one. So let's look at this one first.
One
Yeah, go
thing
on.
that really stood out to me in the poll from the government was like the numbers of just people who support secularization are huge for a government
Yes,
report, but I know that the
for
real numbers
government.
are even larger. But what stood out to me was that according to this government report, only 38% are totally fine towards non-compliance of the mandatory hijab. And that was the biggest discrepancy to me because other Gammon poll research has shown that the attitudes towards mandatory hijab is radically different than what was revealed in the government poll. Like that was the biggest difference, the biggest discrepancy is that the government poll seems to imply that there is a lot less support. There's more support for mandatory hijab than other outside polling suggests as well. And I thought it was very interesting that it was mandatory hijab where you see the biggest discrepancy.
Mm-hmm.
So part of me is like, are they messing with that number to try to make it, because obviously mandatory hijab is such a relevant issue. Like, have they kind of let the ship sail on the secularism thing, but it's the mandatory hijab that they're trying to like save face on?
But that doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense. What percent did they say want mandatory hijab?
Oh, let me find that real quick. Let me find it. But they said that there was only 38% that were tolerant towards non-compliance. But 38% tolerant towards non-compliance is so much smaller than what other Gammon Institute polls have shown. If I'm remembering correctly, there was one Gammon Institute poll that showed 22% don't accept the hijab, period.
Yes, I will show you the numbers, okay?
Sorry, go ahead.
The numbers on their own report is self-contradictory because it says 34% that hijab should not be forcefully imposed on women. How could that be when more than 70% want a secular government? What do they want? They want a secular government and they're not against hijab being mandated. That makes, I think the government's report is contradictory with itself, right? But let's look at this Gammon poll. The Gammon poll makes a lot more sense to me.
Oh, I found the number, by the way. Only 8% said that they would absolutely agree with mandatory hijab.
Oh, based on the government's data?
Poll. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's believable.
38%, 34% said that there should not be mandatory hijab. 38% said that they're fine with breaking mandatory hijab. And then meanwhile, 8% said that they want mandatory hijab. There's some discrepancies there. I'm confused. Maybe this is an issue.
Anyways, we do not trust the government research, but even if we did, 73% of Iranians want a secular government, even if that was trustable. But here's a better study, which is the Gammon Institution, which shows that if this study is to be believed, Iran is a Muslim minority country. Because when you ask people which one of the following is closer to your beliefs and faith, 32% answered Shia Muslim. And if you add all other Muslims, like 5% say Sunni Muslim, 3% say Sunni, right? So this is 40% Muslim right now. So Sufi, yeah, so 8%, 32, 40%. Do we have any other Muslims here? No other Muslims here. I mean, you could stretch it with the Baha'is, I guess. So let's say 41%. 41% of Iran is Muslim. That means that less than 50% of Iran is Muslim. So Iran is now a Muslim minority country run by an Islamic theocracy. This is insane. Did you guys, anybody anticipate that in their lifetime they would be able to tell that Iran is a Muslim minority country? Well, this poll shows that it is. And by the way, here it says atheists are 9%, but that's misleading, okay? Because this 9%, this 9% here, these are people who self-identify as an atheist, not people that are actually atheists. If you want to see what percentage of people are atheists, you have to ask them if they believe in God, and they did. So if you ask people if they do believe in God, the number of people who said yes, they do believe in God are 78%. So the percentage of atheists is 22%. 22% is comparable to Western European and North American countries. That's the level of atheism in Iran, which is pretty insane. But if you ask like Islam, like these are other things. In life after death, only 37% believe in life after death. That means that the rest, that they're not Muslim. Okay? Religion, only 27%, 28% said they believe in religion. So these are not Muslims. These are people, even though they believe in God, they don't have a religion, right? So they're not Muslim, Christian, or anything.
It's like the difference between atheist versus nuns. Meaning, like, are you
right? Exactly.
You have a religion? They say none, but they're still spiritual. Like, that's a common thing in America. They're technically the largest segment of non-religious people in America.
Right. So look at this poll, right? So this poll, by the way, this poll the question was not translated properly because I saw the Persian question. It says, how have your religious or non-religious belief changed during the lifetime? So it says the red number here is going from religious to non-religious, but it's a little bit misleading because non-religious, a lot of people in English associate non-religious with somebody that might still have a religion, but not very religious. No, but in the Persian, if you read what it actually means by non-religious, the word that they use is somebody that doesn't have a religion at all, not somebody that might not be religious but still have a religious. So the red represents people who went from having a religion to being completely with no religion at all. So, and you could see that within one generation, within one lifetime, not like this is not something that happened over 1,000 years or something. This is over 40 years. In the past 40 years, 46%, 47% of Iranians have went from having a religion to not having a religion. What you're seeing here right now, this is about half the population of a country with more than 80 million people in it, right? This represents the greatest mass exodus out of religion in the history of mankind. What you're seeing on the screen is the greatest mass exodus out of religion in history ever seen, ever recorded. Even when we had the Age of Enlightenment, people just abandoned the church. They didn't leave Christianity. They were still Christians. This is insane, right? Let's go to the hijab ones to compare the hijab rules. Oh, here. No, that's the child. Oh, this is actually interesting. This is not hijab. So people were asked, I want my child to learn about, so this is interesting. There's two different questions, right? I want my children to learn about diverse religious beliefs in school. 53% agreed, right? And then, but look at the second question. I want my child to be educated in religious teachings and duties in school. Only 26% agree. So if it's about learning about religions, half of the people agree, right? But if it's being indoctrinated with a religion, the majority of people don't agree, right? But let's go to the hijab one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Look at this. This shocked me, right? Because I kind of suspected the second one. I did not suspect the first one, right? So the second one, which is kind of what I expected, which actually the number is pretty close to the government one, right? The hijab should be mandatory in public. 72% of Iranians disagree. Only 15% agree. 12% didn't answer, right?
Here's a really important point. This poll was taken in 2020.
Before Mahsa revolution. This was way before Mahsa revolution.
Several years before the Mahsa Amini revolution.
Yes, we need these numbers revisited because this red is probably a lot bigger right now. But
Oh yeah.
here's when this poll when this poll came out, what shocked me was the first question, because I kind of expected most Iranians do not agree with mandatory hijab. They're like, oh, let people who want hijab wear the hijab, and people who don't want the hijab not wear the hijab. But no, the majority of Iranians agree with the concept of hijab completely. even hijab I chose, even voluntarily hijab. So the first question, which shocked me, says, I believe in the practice of wearing the hijab, like not mandatory hijab, just hijab. 58% of Iranians disagreed. 58% Iranians are like, no to hijab as a whole, not just a mandatory version of it.
We're going back to the times of the Shah. Freaking.
No, we're not. No,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, actually, they wish. No, actually, that's a very good point, because a lot of Muslims in Iran are dreaming of going back to the time before the Islamic Revolution, because people during the Shah, before we had an Islamic Republic in Iran, people respected Islam. And a lot of Muslims in Iran, they're like, the Islamic Revolution was the worst thing that happened to Islam, because in Iran, people don't respect Islam anymore. Before we had an Islamic Republic, before we had an Islamic government, there was a lot of respect for Islam, even among people who didn't practice Islam. They at least respected it. Now they don't.
Let's not forget that the Shah actually did the Hajj.
Yeah. He had respect for Islam.
Yeah.
Something we didn't. Something that we were not told in school at all. Unlike his father, his grandpa did not respect it. His grandpa famously went into a mosque with his boots on as a show of disrespect, something that his son would never do.
Yo, Reza
Yeah.
did not mess around. Yo, Reza
Yeah.
is not here to play. No time for play.
Yeah. Right. So this is why many religious people in Iran want secularism. Some of them because they think this is the right thing to do anyways. Some people in Iran, some religious people in Iran want secularism to save Islam. For the sake of Islam. They think like a religious government has been the worst thing for Islam. And now it's not just non-religious people that want secularism. Some religious people want secularism to bring back respect for Islam. Yeah, David, exactly.
So with all that being said, what do you think is the significance of the government coming out with these numbers in this leaked report? I've heard that there is pressure on the government to reveal the full report.
Well, they didn't come out with this report. That's why it's a leak. Like they weren't supposed to come out. This was just for their own information. But the significance of this is that this is only going to get worse. Okay? Because if you dig deeper into the number, right? So when I said like 47% of Iranians that have left religion within their lifetime, right? If you go do it by age, you can see that the younger demographic, this number is higher than the older demographic. So this is going to get the divide between the government in Iran and the people is like so wide, and it's only going to get worse, one generation after the other one. It's also very interesting that the gap between other ones, other demographics, is not as wide. So you can see university educated is 6% more. Guys, look, rural area like you would expect, like, oh, is this just happening in urban areas? I mean, 41% of people in rural areas have left religion. Like in little villages. This is not just like a big city center kind of wave that is happening. You go find the most out of reach villages in Iran,
and people are like,
No, they're not. I mean, they're leaving religion. They're like,
I know,
F
but I mean, like,
Islam.
when you hear about
Yeah.
instances of honor violence and honor killing and stuff, it's most
Yes,
frequently
yes.
happening in rural areas.
Yes, yes. Yeah, but even there, things are moving in the right direction. Even in 41% exit out of religion in rural areas. That's insane.
Can you quickly scroll down on that data visualization? What does the blue stand for?
Oh, here. My belief faith has not changed much. So these are people
Okay.
that did not change. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. And then
Yeah.
look at the yellow is they converted.
Yeah. These are people who
That's
converted
very
probably.
interesting.
These are people who went from mostly from being Muslim to either Christian or Zoroastrian, mostly Zoroastrian, right? So
Oh
these are
my
people who
god, so if you
converted out
add
of
that
his.
on top of it, it's even more people leaving Islam.
Yes, yes, yes. The
Oh,
red are the people who left Islam and picked no religion. And the yellow is people who left Islam and picked a different religion. Yeah.
oh my god.
We're winning. We're winning the demographic battle. Yes.
It's
Oh, somebody is asking. So
Oh, yeah, I thought this
Shoshi
was a
is saying,
good question
yeah.
for you to address because a lot of people
Sure.
haven't heard you go through these statistics before. If you guys are interested, Armin has done a full stream going through these reports in very fine detail. I think this was done a few years ago, right when it came out. I think it was called
When it
like
came out, yes.
Iranians leaving Islam, like huge. Just search like those kind of keywords in our channel. And Armin also did a stream with Apostate Prophet going through all this in detail. So you can go watch that as well if
Yeah.
you want a longer breakdown. But Shosh is asking, how do you explain the high levels of atheists in Iran? What causes it in your opinions? It's very simple. It's called the Islamic Republic.
Yeah, yeah.
The fastest way
If
to make people leave religion is theocracy.
it's a combination. It's a combination of things, right? It's the Islamic Republic of Iran has been the greatest force against Islam in the history of mankind, right? Because people have experience with Islam and don't like it. But it's actually I changed my answer on this because it's a combination of two things. It's experiencing Islamic government, but also experiencing something better before it, right? Because if you bring an Islamic government to Afghanistan, a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, this is what we want, right? But it's the Pahlavi experience before the Islamic Republic that people were like, yeah, we kind of like that, and we don't like an Islamic government. You know, when education was improving, where economy was improving, where women's rights were being improving, when it was becoming freedoms were increasing. People's lifestyles were improving, where healthcare was improving, and everything was going in the right direction. And then the Islamic Republic came, and all that progress stopped, and everything went backwards. And especially because of women, right? Because Iranian women did not have this idea that they could be this free and this powerful before the Pahlavis came and gave a taste of it to them, right? So the reason why we have a woman life freedom movement right now is because the women of Iran were liberated by the Pahlavis. After the Qajar dynasty, the Pahlavis liberated women, and it's really hard to put Iranian women back in the chain after those chains were broken. Because once you give them a chance to be free, now when the Islamic Republic comes and wants to put them back in chain, that is going to be hard to do.
But I mean, just to bring up a contention, like Afghanistan was also modernizing at breakneck speed. They also had a taste of something different.
It didn't last very long, and also it did not include the same level of rights and freedoms. You know that we could go a comparison. Yeah, but you're right. You're right. I mean, people were still. It didn't had enough chance to change the culture. The Pahlavi dynasty had a better chance to do that.
Yeah, it
It
wasn't as
basically took
long
over.
as
Yeah, it
a
wasn't
period
as
of
long.
time.
Yeah. I also want
I
to
mean
show. Hold on, wait. I want to
go
show
ahead.
this when you said so. The stream that you were mentioning
Yes,
is
thank
called
you.
half of Iranians have left Islam according to new poll. So this was a very good stream that we did. So if you search for that, half of Iranians have left Islam according to new poll. And if you search for that and put also Atheist Republic maybe in there, then you will be able to find that stream.
Great. There was another question that I think is good to address, saying, well, I'm not sure what this person's name is, since I can't read this.
Mohsen ibn Ali al-Hijaz, I think.
Oh, full name. Okay. Well, Durud, Mosanjan.
Durud is Persian. This name is Arabic. You have to say salam.
Oh, I thought Mohsen was a Persian name.
No, it's an Arabic name.
Okay, excuse me. He's saying, but what about the Islamic Republic makes them dislike Islam? Why don't they separate Islam from the Islamic Republic? Because the Islamic Republic does not make that separation explicitly so.
Because they read the Quran and they see that Islam, because they see how this comes from the Quran. I mean, we study the Quran. There's a movement in Iran there's a huge movement by Muslims in Iran to try to separate Islam from the experience people have had with the Islamic Republic. The reformists trying to say like this is not real Islam. So this is a very interesting question Mohsen is asking. There is a lot of Muslims in Iran that are trying to convince all of these Iranians who hate Islam right now that their hatred for the Islamic Republic should not lead them to a hatred for Islam. That real Islam is not bad as the Islam that they have experienced with the Islamic Republic. And this movement is failing massively, and people are not buying it. One of the famous signs people hold in the protest, which I wish I had it ready right now, when people go chant against the Islamic Republic, one sign that they hold, is in response to the claim that this is not the Islamic Republic Islam is not the real Islam. So people hold the sign and say, I shit on their Islam and your Islam that is supposed to be the real Islam, right? So whatever if you say that's their Islam and this is our Islam, so the sign that they're holding, like, I shit on both of them. That's a very famous sign that people.
It's a trending hashtag. I shit on both Islam.
Yeah, like. So the full sentence is like, I shit on their Islam and your Islam that you claim is not their Islam, something like that. I should find it. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Oh my god. Oh my god. So funny. Okay, and that was the end of our show today. Thank you everyone for joining us. We had a lot of fun, and we should address this last super chat from Gasian American. Thank you for everyone who supports the show with super chats, through memberships, or you can also support us by becoming a monthly donor on PayPal, link in the description below. Oh my god, speaking of, Kenny literally just gifted 5 Atheist Republic memberships. Wow, thank you, Kenny. So Gasian American gave a super chat in regards to our last news story about the Tunisian imam who got deported from France, saying, is deportation a good threat to keep undocumented workers working hard? Green card taxpayers vote in local NYC elections, no taxation without representation. So, I mean, Gasian American, I can see why you would bring this up, but really this is a very separate issue. Like, first of all, this imam was not undocumented. He was a legal resident. Second of all, like, the threat of deportation with undocumented workers is a very severe and prevalent form of worker exploitation, which is different than getting deported as a legal resident because you violated the law, whether or not we agree with the nature of that law, right? Yeah, obviously no taxation without representation is a very American sentiment of our founding fathers. Go ahead.
All right, so I found that image in multiple places. Okay, so the chant that I'm talking about, you could see it here, right? Like, I would just want to see you a couple of examples here, okay? And here, right? So this is something that Iranian people in the protest, they hold it in their
Wait, that's
protest
in
signs a lot.
Vienna. Wait,
That's in
that's
Vienna,
literally
yes.
my friend. I literally know him.
Yeah. So
I
these
literally
are
know him. That's
Oh,
Hoja.
you know this guy?
Yeah.
Oh, this guy?
I'm yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
okay.
This is in Vienna. This is in Stephanplatz. And I
Okay,
would
okay,
go
okay.
see this guy every single weekend, and he brought this sign all the time.
Right. So these are Iranian people protesting against the government of Iran. And this sign says, Natanha ridam tu in Islamitun, which means not only do I shit in this Islam of yours, and then he says, balke ridam tu un yeki Islamitun ki migid in un Islam nis. But I also shit on that Islam of yours that you claim is not that this Islam is not that Islam. So basically, it sounds a lot more poetic in Persian, but this is a famous, famous sign that people hold. Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do. And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.